I think a lot of my life, like when it's come to girls and stuff like that, my biggest issue has been me, honestly. Like, there's no other way to put it. The problem with my failures in the relationships I could have had was me. I was immature. I did things wrong. I didn't know what I was doing. I said the wrong things, and I wasn't aware of it. I didn't understand when I was the problem. I think a lot of people run into this situation, actually. They go on and on and on with a bunch of different girls, and usually ends with the girl leaving them or being like, I can't do this anymore, or whatever she might say to you. Um, and if this is happening to you, and it's always you that's being broken up with or turned down or rejected or whatever, you might need to take a look inside of yourself to see what you could be doing wrong. You gotta do some self-monitoring. You gotta check yourself for the potential things that you could be doing wrong that have been keeping you from being able to hold a relationship with somebody else. Because, at least in my experience, like, I've had, God, in the past 5 years, I've usually been the one that's been broken up with or split from or whatever. And I always kind of just went in with a mindset, and that was not to blame my friends because it's not their fault, but have my friends be like, oh yeah, it's just the wrong one. And of course, there is some truth in that. It was a scenario where that girl was probably the wrong one. But the other part I didn't realize to that scenario was that a good chunk of it was probably also my fault. And I think a lot of that self-awareness to that realization came within the past couple of years, when I kind of started to reflect on all the situationships or unquote relationships that I've been in, and none of them have gone well or ended well. They've all pretty much ended with me being no longer on talking terms with that person. And partially that's because we just split ways. Like, we don't hate each other or anything like that. But again, I do not talk to any of those people anymore. I have not seen them in a very long time. I mean, before I deleted all my social media, I didn't follow any of them. Like, a lot of it had to do with me. And I'm glad I came to realize that, because taking accountability made me feel a lot better about myself, because it kind of opened the door for me to be able to understand, like, okay, I'm aware of the things I did wrong, and now I can start to work on those things. I've recognized that my faults in relationships not working out in the past is my fault. I've done X, Y, Z to cause these issues, and now I can start working on them. That accountability aspect is so important, man. Once you realize, like, in a scenario like this, that you're the one that's been doing the things wrong, it feels so good to understand that and be able to control that. Because, like, at the end of the day, a lot of the mistakes that you're making are not something that, like, they're not things that, like, can't be fixed. Whatever habits or things you've said in the past that have resulted in poor dating patterns and whatnot, a lot of those things can be reversed. A lot of those things can be fixed to make yourself a lot more successful. And that's very powerful to realize. And that especially felt that way with me when I came to understand that myself. And a lot of it comes from a place of usually traumas from previous relationships leading on to the next one that haven't healed. When you just decide to go into another one without giving yourself the proper time you need, because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't take the time that they need to get better, to heal from a relationship, and they just jump right back in thinking that going into something else with someone else will fix all my problems and make me whole again. It'll fix the void and it'll just make me feel like a better person again. Spoiler alert, that's not how that works. That's a great recipe for something toxic, and also a great recipe for probably a one-night stand if that's what you're looking for. I don't believe in that kind of culture myself. I think that's immorally correct. But if that's your thing, I mean, you got it. You're doing your thing. So, good for you. But personally, I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I don't think it's correct. But, yeah. Anyways, not letting yourself heal is usually a big cause for a lot of these habits that are allowing your dating patterns to be poor and for you to never really be able to settle down into a real relationship. Spoiler alert, masturbation can also contribute. I would know this because, like I've talked about in like a couple of videos now, I've had a problem with it. Not as much anymore. In fact, not really anymore, but definitely for the past prior 5-6 years, for certain. And again, that's one of those things that got fixed by accountability, understanding that the predicament I was in was something that could be fixed and turned around ultimately. So, ultimately, if you're having problems with your relationships and aren't really able to have success in settling down with somebody, definitely don't give up on hope, because whatever problems you're having will be fixed, and you can fix them, but you have to be willing to go to the measures and put the time in to be able to fix those things. Like, you gotta take accountability for yourself. You gotta speak up for yourself when you need be. And if therapy is involved in that, then great, because personally, I've found that therapy has helped me a lot with a lot of the things that I've dealt with in the past. I've been in therapy since late 2022 and had the same therapist the whole time. And if you find the right one off the bat, then good for you, man, because like it can really do a number for you. It can help you out with a lot of things that like you didn't really realize were wrong with you. And yeah, I'm kind of rambling now. But you get the idea, like, you gotta understand in life sometimes that you are the problem. I'm not saying that everything was your fault and that whoever you were talking to before didn't do anything wrong. That's not true. They probably did some things wrong too. It was probably wrong on both of your parts, but the problem is when you tell yourself that you didn't do anything wrong and that it was the other person's fault. Fully. That's when the problems come in. Because if you do it once, you're going to keep doing it, and you're never going to understand when you've done things wrong. And that is obviously a problem. So don't let yourself get to that point, because a lot of those things can also be fixed through communication as well. And if a lot of those things are ending relationships and whatnot, then your communication could be poor. I'm not saying it is, but there is a chance that could also be a contributor. So, some things for you to consider, if any of what I've just said applies to you. Something to look into for sure, if so. If you're not subscribed already, then I encourage you to do so. And if you are, great. If not, then I hope to see you in the next one. And that's all I got for today. So, stay blessed.